Your names all say unverified. That's so funny.
It means, yeah, that they're
So
not
does yours.
of our
Mine is too? Oh.
Microsoft subscription area.
Ah, okay, fine. Ah,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Or you all just have, you're very clever and you all have a very similar, strange last name.
There's that.
The unverified family. Exactly.
It's family.
All right, great. So we'll kick it off. So the topic today is on the actual implementation of these tools. We framed it as practical AI integration for teachers and administrators. And who else we got? And we'll keep letting people in as they come in. Oh, great. We got Liz. And so, hey, Liz, welcome. We just kicked off recording transcription here, focused on our title here. This is the practical AI integration for teachers and administrators today. But then Dan had kind of thrown out maybe a little tongue in cheek, or maybe we could actually explore it. But basically, how could you can you leverage AI for political leverage in terms of hitting up or representation around AB 84 and so on? And it then led to
I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly. A conversation around you know, what are these incentives? What are these mindsets? How are these choices being made? On that front, I think that's pretty helpful in that I was doing this with a charter that was trying to become the first personalized learning charter in Wyoming. They were not successful on their first pass, but when it came to the call it the political incentives, we were leveraging ChatGPT very heavily to look at, you know, to get the backgrounds of all the people involved, to look at the priority structures, to help refine the messaging, to look at the obstacles or objections they were being put forth, to grab other relevant stories and comparisons. So in a more general sense, you know, it's 10 or 50xing our productivity and speed just to do those things. Now, in this case, the outcome, at least on the first pass, was in effect, we didn't get that one through. But it made it feel like if they want to give it another pass, we're ready to do that again. So it's really just kind of ramping up all of those elements. For me, just even understanding AB 84, I plugged it into ChatGPT immediately. I looked at all the specific authors. I created a social post shaming them all specifically, and I pulled backgrounds on each of them, saying this is what they say they care about, and here are some things that represent like things that aren't aligned with that. So I think it can basically be a leverage tool for any intention you already have and are already trying to do, and you just try to think, well, how much of this can I have you know, chat do some legwork on? But in terms of like automating it in an agent format, or like doing phone calls or emails, unlikely at this point. Now, AI agents for outbound voice calls are actually really excellent right now. I get some of them coming in now, but they're not supposed to be calling me. They're only in terms of the actual, the way the law goes with this right now is this has to be people that have opted in to receive this call. And so will people do things that they're not supposed to? Of course. And so you may, I don't know, have all of you gotten a call from an AI agent, like a legit AI agent at this point yet, where you can actually, it's a good voice, it has good prompts, responds to your replies, nothing like that?
Not yet.
I don't ever answer my phone, so.
I got one for a medical one today, and I was like, are you a human being? I'm not talking to you.
Yeah. If it was a human, you weren't going to talk to the human?
No. I said, are you, what, I don't remember what I said. I was like, are you a robot? I don't want to talk to you.
Oh, yeah, it would be the opposite now. Are you a human? No, I only talk to AIs now. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I was in a bad mood. I took it out on the robot.
Directionally, the way to think about this, though, is that, you know, families are going to be technically opted in at your schools to receiving these kind of calls. And you could have AI teachers assistants and like that loaded up to assignments that are currently happening, field trips that are coming up, all of those things. You could even use the teacher's voice if you want to get really creepy about it. And you could have these agents lined up to do all of those calls to increase follow through and engagement with families, and families knowing where their students are at on a very personal, like one-by-one basis, and then be able to ask questions about it back and forth and with whatever information is being shared through that system. Lots of interesting questions that always come about each time you think about this implementation. What if somebody other than the parents answers the phone? You have to verify who you're sharing that information with and back and forth. But I try to look at a lot of these things directionally and see what can we do today. Therefore, what will we be able to do tomorrow? And then what are the implications of that, and what are going to be the bottlenecks and things that slow that down? So our operating kind of thesis here for AI meets EdTech and education is let's limit wasted human potential. Let's have this basically accelerate people's paths, which coordinates really well with personalized learning, which is already geared to try to give students the best shot at learning the way they learn best and engaging with their education in the way that's most meaningful for them. I think it engages a lot with like career and technical education and a lot of things that we see growing that I think we can be really positive and optimistic about, that are in the direction of, hey, let's give learners the fastest paths to, optimize their education engagement and then their, future career opportunities and outcomes. So for today's, there are a couple frameworks that we could use. One is this for both teachers and administrators. And so the ways to think about that and the tools that you can use will be a bit different. And I want to hear from each of you around what you are using. And then we can use the ABC work framework to think about how to deploy these tools around the areas where we can get productivity gains the fastest and it's kind of morale boosters around implementing this. But let's go around the horn first and just say who you are and what your role is at your organization, and then which AI tools are you using on a daily, weekly, et cetera basis right now that have had the biggest leverage for you in terms of save time or increased impact and so on. So I'll kick it over to you, Dennis, because at least on my squares, you're right to my right.
Okay. I'm Dennis Tenoya. I'm Mr. D Math. I'm Mr. D from Mr. D Math. And so we use ChatGPT mostly for data analysis. So we can take data, a lot of things like students do surveys for us at the end of the year. We can compile that data. It's great for organizing things. So we've been using it on the admin side. What we're working on is we're actually working with a software company to build an agent for students for homework support. For math is where we're going to start. And if this is successful, we'll be able to do it with other subject areas. But we're doing something a little bit different because, most of the times when kids go in and they're trying to use AI for homework support, they just want AI to tell it the answer. And we don't want to do that. We want it to be a learning tool. So what the developers are doing is they're training the AI to work the problem out, but do it wrong. Mm-hmm. And then the kids have to go back into the steps that the AI gave them and find the mistake in the way the problem was done. And so we know we can do things like that with grammar. We can do things like that with history. So we can give them information. So the math tool right now, the engineers think they're going to be done sometime midsummer. So we'll be able to get it out and let schools play with it, test it, let our students play with it and test it. And so far, it's been it's pretty exciting. So we use it on the admin side of things, but we're looking at how we can integrate it with our students.
Yeah, excellent. In my early test on it, I like the the initial kind of assessment point was just asking me, right? Like, where do you want to start? I started with algebra 2, and then I felt less confident once I saw what it did. I was like, oh wait, maybe we'll scoot that back a little bit. It's been a while.
Yeah, we've actually uploaded our practice problems into the system, so it's going to understand how we teach, right? So it knows our language, our data, and we haven't done. Jacob had a great idea about having it voice actuated, so we're going to play with that and see if we can implement that as well, so it actually can talk to the kids.
Excellent. Yeah, Dan, how about you?
Sure. Dan Labar, I'm in William Finch Charter School, tiny little school of 150 kids, K-12. We're in Glenn County. And so winners, if you know where Glenn County is. So yeah, as far as like AI and leveraging things, I'm just like dipping my toe in the water. We did probably the biggest thing I've done is like I don't know if you've heard of this LCAP GPT that they just limited the information base with just kind of source documents that are not the internet, right? Mm-hmm. So that's been really helpful. That helped me with my LCAP survey development, and then different parts of the LCAP and the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant Plan you have to implement in there. So I know that everything that is telling me is compliant with those pieces, which is nice. So that's the first time I've played with something that wasn't sourced from everything.
Yeah,
I just had a limited source, so that was very helpful. But I guess I just don't know what I don't know at this point. Like there just seems like all these different uses that I'm just, there's 50 different platforms. If you want to do an image, if you want to do a expository essay, if you want, like there's just so many different things and platforms that I'm just kind of, my head's swimming.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot that you can refine on. If you're in OpenAI and you've got that ChatGPT subscription, there's a lot you can do within that. Everything from the image to video applications to obviously all of that text. And then, as you mentioned, the whole world of custom GPTs is quite useful. And it's the same underlying principle of building an AI-powered chatbot, is that we're just giving it handbooks, website pages, and things specific, so that when visitors come, it's not talking about the whole of the internet, but just answering all of the questions based on all of the information it has just from your school handbook, FAQ, and website pages. That's one of my favorite like quick win implementations for schools, because it kind of blows people away. It's so much faster and easier to build than they used to be. They used to be full decision trees. You had to pre-guess what are all the questions people might ask, and then you had to pre-write all of the canned answers to that. And then if they asked something you just hadn't programmed, it's like, I don't know. And it would just lame out and say, well, maybe send an email. But now it can actually engage on all of that. And then the training time goes down from, 40 or 80 or however complex hours that is to like a day. You can build these things out in a day in a test environment, optimize, and be like ready to rock. Philomena.
Oh, hi, everybody. Yeah, this is my first time of engaging in this. So my superintendent wanted me to participate in this. So my school is really exploring different options and applications. So we are really not really into it yet. So except the administrators are the ones using different applications for data analysis and so on.
And so you're looking through the lens of an administrator more than as a teacher for today?
For today, I'm both. I'm just, okay. She just asked me to represent her and see what I can get to help our school make decisions on what we really need in order to prepare for the next school year.
Are there any tools that you use right now today on a regular basis?
For AI, not necessarily. We are exploring the GPT applications for just making sure tracking students where they are. Mm-hmm. So that we're on the initial stage of it. so that we can know where the students are at any time of the day and so on. So we are really new to this.
Yeah.
But we are interested in finding the right applications for our school.
Excellent. And then Lourdes, also with Mr. D,
Hello,
tools that you're using or leveraging.
Much like Mr. D mentioned, I'm using ChatGPT as my BFF.
Mm-hmm.
I use it for lots of different things. Like yesterday, I was trying to figure out how to take formula from a formula from one spreadsheet and make that formula work. Like whatever we write on this spreadsheet, how can it show up on this spreadsheet? And I mean, I asked ChatGPT and it helped me through. And I'm like, what about this problem? What if you add a row, how's it going to affect the spreadsheet? Good question. It actually won't. It gives you all this stuff. And then I said, well, I want to do this to it. And so it guided me through till I got what I wanted. So I use it for training myself, and doing things that I don't know how to do.
Mm-hmm.
I use it for, communicating better, more effectively, making something more succinct, something more thorough as far as emails and things like that. I use it for training purposes as well. Come up with some, just, can you make this a better order for me, make it more understandable? And I use it for that too. So ChatGPT is definitely my go-to.
Yeah, excellent. Are you using it in text or like voice mode, both, or one more than the other?
I don't use it on voice because I use it on my computer. I don't use it on my phone.
Well, yeah, you can use it in voice on your computer as well, as long as you have a mic
really?
input. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't tried. I just type in my things or I copy and paste, and I haven't tried it with the voice.
I like it for those ones when you're having those sort of almost kind of like a dialogue and you're trying to flesh out an idea.
Yeah.
Then the back and forth can be really nice. The interruption is right there quickly, so it's not like generating a whole wall of text before you go back and forth and like that. So
cool.
Yeah, I like that. I like that for rides in the car where I'm just fleshing out an idea, or also if I'm going into like therapy or analysis mode, we'll do that. And yeah, different points where I find I lean one way or another. All right, Liz.
Hi, everybody. I'm Liz Brenner. I'm the superintendent of Compass Charter Schools. I have been using AI in a lot of different ways. I was just actually sitting here reflecting on it and remembering some ways I even forgot about. One thing I found really useful, we were getting a whole lot of PRAs for documents that needed to be redacted. And ChatGPT is really good at redacting PDFs. So you can dump a bunch of PDFs in there and say, like, remove these names or remove these things. And it was really, really helpful for that. I've used ChatGPT for letters of recommendation. That's a huge one. I always ask people, send me your resume. I dump it in there. I say, write a letter of recommendation from this point of view. I look at it and then I tailor it to my knowledge of the person. That's like been really, really helpful. When you were talking about like the limited, the applications that you can just draw from limited data, I'm going to definitely check out that LCAP GPT, Dan. I have not heard of that. I did use ChatGPT to write my LCAP, but I didn't realize there was a specific one for it. But I use NotebookLM in the Google suite, and like just recently, because I do a lot of advocacy and policy work, I've been taking all of the bills and putting them into a NotebookLM and then querying, like AB 84 just came out with another version today, so I put it in there, and then they say what changed, what's different, how is it going to impact, these things. I'm a little leery. It doesn't always pick everything up, so I don't trust it 100%. I usually still read the bill because I want to make sure everything's in there. We've used it, trying to think of the other ways. But I think the NotebookLM is one I'm playing with the most right now. I just talked to my board president the other day. We're going to put all of our board documents, our board policies, our bylaws, into a NotebookLM so that board members can just ask questions in there and get that information from our source documents. That's a really critical thing. Moving forward with some other platforms, one of the ones that I picked up at ASU is called FYI. It's an app that was actually developed by will.i.am, the musician from the Black Eyed Peas, and that they're making it into this very conversational tool. It's really geared towards younger people, for young people. And they have all these different personas, and it's kind of funny because they try to make them talk like they ad lib a lot. But the interesting thing about it is that it's very conversational, and I really like it because I will just sit there and talk to it, and I'll ask it something, and then it's pretty intuitive. Vacation planning, things like that, like, oh, I'm going here, where's the best shopping, and then it'll tell you. So there are lots and lots of ways that we're using it right now.
Excellent. Yeah, I can resonate with all of the examples you all gave. And then additionally, of course, we're using it for a lot of code analysis, code drafting. We're using it on the back end to analyze curriculum and sort curriculum by categories for our interactive curriculum guide. And then looking at a conversational front end for better indexing students on the front end. So those are all exciting, interesting things today. This is the window I want to share with you here, not the portal, but the some notes. So I went through, and here's another one, was figuring out what frameworks should we use for today's discussion, and let's flesh this out, the difference between focus areas on teachers and admins. Now, if we've known each other for a little while, then we've probably talked about the A, B, and C framework, which is something I originally took from Eben Pagan and early marketing and entrepreneurship effectiveness. It's the idea is as you're building out a role or building out a company, you identify for each role what is the C work, the B work, the A work. And the C work here is going to be anything that's low skill, repetitive tasks, busy work. These are the things that are basically like costing because they're preventing that person from doing more of their B and A work. And B work is going to be medium skill task work. There's still choices that they have to be making. There's still some training that would be involved if they were going to get that off of their plate. And the thing we want to optimize for is A work. So that's high skill, high impact work. That's the stuff that's most aligned with that role's skill set. It adds the most value to the organization or the most value to the customer or the student, and like that. So for a teacher, for example, we might consider that actual teaching and mentoring, right? And some of their low skill repetitive tasks could be addressed with some of these tools. So we'll see which of these you're familiar with and which your teachers might be using or not right now. So the main objective here, eliminate or reduce manual workload to free up time. Yes, time gets freed up, but I would say the other thing to really emphasize about that is like morale gets freed up. Like busy work drains people, and then doing the work that they're most passionate about, most engaged in, best at, like even though it's still work, it has more of a filling up quality. So I think there are these other ways that you can measure this beyond just freed up time that actually makes it a real difference. So these four are interesting ones to explore. So first is Otter AI, and various other, almost every platform has some sort of, like Teams has right now, we're recording and transcribing. But teachers transcribing their meetings or parent conferences or other types of sessions so that they can kind of interrogate them later for what were the main things that you got from this. Anything, good questions I like to ask. What are the main things you got from this meeting? What I've been doing with these meetings is what were things that different participants brought that were important, like quotes to highlight so other people can see the value they're getting from the meeting. And then was there anything that I missed or opportunities that we could dig deeper on next time? And then finally, what next steps were discussed or not discussed to move this forward? So the combination of a transcription recording tool for teachers combined with like a list of questions or some framework around how they use that could be really helpful. How many of you have teachers at your schools that are doing anything like that currently, or is there a culture around it? Is it sort of free range? How are they dealing with that today? Oh,
For
not so
my
much.
school,
Dan
we are
just said
not there
message.
yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Not there yet. Okay.
We're
Cool. Well,
not there.
that one alone, I think is I think that definitely I agree that makes the list. That's high up there. And then alongside this, you know, this is the individual exterior, you could call it. But what about the collective interior? What about the culture that the teachers have? If they have like any sort of weekly or monthly group where they get together and share their best practices and approaches around this, now it starts to build, like we're doing here, a culture and some inspiration that they can feed off of each other around that. So I think the tool and the individual idea is great, but it needs a place to kind of incubate and form and get fed by your teachers community. So that's an interesting one to bring. MagicSchool AI, I feel like, is one of the most successful AI platforms out there in the education space that I've heard a lot of people using. And I've taken a look at it, and it basically has all of these different areas that you can kind of launch. They're almost like little mini applications within the primary application for a lot of sort of preloaded functions and features. But they can use that to generate ideas around their teaching, rubrics, newsletters, subplans. Diffit.me I took a look at. You can plug things in and then shift around the grade level or comprehension level to start changing up the material to match the learner's point of entry really quickly. So that one might be interesting to explore. And then Slides GPT, you know, it was interesting. It just seemed just slightly gimmicky. I didn't get a whole lot of value out of it, but I did think it was cool. I took the transcription from our last AI and EdTech MasterMind, plugged it into that, and it was true. In about 3 minutes, it had generated, you know, a slide deck on it that had a relevant image and like bullet points, and took it through a fairly organized structure of going through the main points of it. So, you know, wherever that fits in, that might be more of a tool on the admin side, could be as one on the teacher side. But it's, again, once you've got content in any form whatsoever, you can plug it into these different things to then reformat it in various structures. Now, ChatGPT can do most of these things natively as well. Some of these other tools are just nice because, similarly to the LCAP GPT, it's already narrowed down the instructions for you do this and you don't do this. And so it means a little less messing around with it on the front end. So then we look at the medium skill task work, the things that require some choice and some training. And so this is where we want to streamline the planning, the grading, the content adaptation. I think that probably comes from a user that's more experienced at using it on these other things before they start deploying it into this B work. But Canva Magic Write, anyone played around with that one yet? No? Okay. These will all be here, and then I'll give an update on the resource we're looking to build and house these. That will be really great as well. Eduade.ai, generate differentiated assignments, prompts, and exit tickets. I have not played around with that one. And then, of course, ChatGPT, drafting formative assessments, tweaking and scoping sequences, brainstorming and enrichment activities. ChatGPT, like Lourdes is saying, is a really great companion for just about anything you're exploring because it's so versatile. And then these ones then move into the teaching and mentoring areas. How do we focus on unique human strengths, the relationship, the insight, and the adaptability? So Curipod was quite interesting. It's building interactive sessions that provoke student thinking. So giving teachers different angles on the same material and topic. How can we explore this? How can we get engagement in new ways? And then the same idea of if you've explored the custom GPTs, which is going to be over here in this model, if you go to the GPTs tab over here on the left, and this is a fairly new interface. This got updated just yesterday, but GPTs has been there for a while. This is where you're going to be able to come in and you can search for all sorts of custom GPTs people have already built. And then you can also build your own. So right up here in the upper right, you've got create. And this is where you're going to give it custom instructions, custom PDFs, and whatever else you're going to limit it to. I built some interesting ones in the early days. I built a video one that was based on Ayurvedic books I'd written and overall assessments there. So its whole purpose was to act like an Ayurvedic doctor and helping somebody assess their health imbalances and so on and make suggestions. Sora is the video generator. So this is pretty newly developed images and video that you can do some pretty interesting studies. A raccoon is like a bundle of grapes. Bunch of grapes.
What kind of
and
prompt
you can
would you give it?
Yeah, it'll tell you. So if you click on this, it'll say, here's the exact prompt used to generate this. And so you can start to kind of build capacity there. And then, yeah, you can personalize it to students, of course, as well. Because of memory, it's so interesting. I've talked about, family members and friends so much through it that now in a chat, I can just say something like summarize Ethan, and it knows my son, and it gives this really great summary of who he is, where he's at, kind of strengths and weak legs and like that. Now it's based on my interactions with it, so it's filtered through the takes I've had in conversations. But it's also bringing in its own assessments of human behavior and the rest of that in our back and forths. That's quite interesting for a really interesting depth. And then Codex is the new, code assessment layer here. We've been using Cursor.ai as our primary code engine. I want to give you all one other thing in case you don't know about this one yet. If you go to your admin here and you go to your settings and you go to personalization, are you all familiar with personalization?
No.
Okay, personalization is where you can kind of default have your GPT have certain things that it's going to, so one, I would recommend that you have memory turned on and chat history turned on. I think by default it is, so that it's able to reference other things that you've gotten into and aggregate things it knows about you or topics that you've been bringing in. So you can bring that back into any new chat. But custom instructions is one that gets kind of slept on. What should it call you? What do you do? And then this one is actually a pretty hardcore hack, I'd say. I'll copy and paste this into the chat for you. This is a system instruction I got from someone that goes deep on this. We're calling it absolute mode. And this will streamline if you've ever noticed that your chat is a little too positive, a little too self-reinforcing, kind of makes you think that you're maybe a little more brilliant than you are. This will help to counter that and strip that down, and you get basically a more honest friend here who won't just tell you what you want to hear, but will push back and will, kind of count out, be a little bit more to the point, less beating around. Yeah, exactly. Less BS, less BS there. So I'll drop this one in the chat for you, and you can explore that in a standalone chat if you want to just do it in a one-off. If you like what you see from that, add it to the system prompt there, and you'll get a bit more. So let me put that in the chat for you real quick. And then Dan linked the LCAP GPT in the chat there too, if you didn't see that.
Yeah, that's from Alameda County Office of Ed.
Perfect. Copy. Go over here. And in the chat. Okay, so yeah, just cut and paste that as is. Save it for later if you want. Okay, back to this. So custom GPTs, not to be slept on. You can do a lot with that, and they could build one. They could either like build one for each subject or topic that they're getting into, or a book or a particular curriculum. Lots of ways that they could use that. And then these prompt libraries for metacognitive feedback, giving deeper, more individualized comments faster. I think the main thing is as a teacher's like aggregating information about the kids is just the privacy elements, but it could be really effective for kind of keeping track of that. What really distinguishes like a highly impactful, influential teacher in the world. It's somebody that really gets to know their students. And so this is actually suggesting, use AI to store more memory about students and do kind of like a roster of it, like, oh, what students haven't I given attention to recently? What would be particularly significant for them, and so on. So then on to the admins, kind of a different set of things. We're considering low skill repetitive stuff, all of the data wrangling, all of the reminders, so again, outbound communications that need to be somewhat personalized, but you're also kind of saying the same thing a lot of the times. So the goal here, cut down logistical overload and inbox churn. So Magic Form is interesting. Google Sheets, AI add-ons for flagging patterns in survey and form data. You are using ChatGPT for that already. That I heard a lot of that. Obviously, still recording your meetings and transcriptions and kind of bringing that management layer into a lot more efficiency. And then we talked about having an internal GPT. Now, Notion AI is doing that really effectively. Liz was mentioning Google's, what was it, NotebookLM, I guess, for doing that around Google Docs. Wherever your docs are living, though, right, start feeding them in so that you can, instead of hunting through folders, ask your sort of front-end GPT for immediate answers to questions, or at the very least, help you find documents much more quickly. Medium skill task work would be your reports, analysis, and communications here. So here it's referencing Notion AI, which I've been learning a little bit about recently. Perplexity is particularly good for like vendor research and citations. You can use all these forms of their deep research mode, which I would have to start a new chat to show you that, but it will go and dig. It takes sometimes 5, depending on the complexity of the research, 5, 10, 15, but it's going really deep. It's referencing a lot of articles and resources. And so I like that for building out real deep strategic plans or market analysis. And then around your planning sessions. And then it likes the idea of that we've been putting forth here. So one thing we're going to do is build a chatbot that's trained on the EdTech Index. And the idea of how to use that, along with the software we've built, is that you'll be able to come to rb-schools.com, fire up the chatbot there, and just say, hey, here's a business problem that we're dealing with currently. And it's going to reference all of the EdTech software that's out there and say, well, here are some various software applications that are focused on that today. And then as we populate the resources area with all of these AI tools and your favorite AI tools, and we use the collective resources there, it's one thing to have a big list of things, but a big list of things is only useful if you have a way to easily navigate that. And I think the best way to navigate that are these forms of chatbots right now, where you can just ask the chatbot, now here's exactly what we're looking for, reference everything on the site, and then figure it out from there. And then you'll have the outbound link, and then you can decide from there if you want to engage or get a demo or something like that. So that's the summary. C work, we're trying to eliminate as much of it as possible. B work, streamline as much of it as possible. And A work, invest deeper in it, because that's where we're going to get the best returns on each role. Anything else that I thought was really interesting here? Kind of a drill down here into if you took something like a category of C work of like communication, logistics, how to go about each of these. But again, as you can see, what's going on here is I'm just back and forthing it with ChatGPT to come up with ideas and then drill down on ideas I like more and keep running with it. And then visual representations are great as well. So let's kind of pause there on that intake and those tools. Again, the recording will be here, transcription will be here, so we'll grab that. Updates around what we're looking to do. We're going to rebuild the RB Schools site. We're currently building out Connecting Waters websites for their schools. So as soon as Sarah, our designer, is done with that, we're going to rebuild our RB-school site so that we can implement all of our solutions. We're going to rebuild it on our CRM software, which will also, for us, it's really useful because then when people are in our database and click through to a particular solution, we can find out if they got the information that they need, if they have any more questions, follow-ups like that. Then we're going to have a forum that's built into that area as well. So you all will have access to that forum. And that forum's going to have the forum as well as the chatbot that lives in there. So you'll be able to scan anything from our past meeting transcription notes, our YouTube videos, any of the solution records that we have in there, any of the resources that we've all added with like URLs and short descriptions of what these different AI tools do, and then the full EdTech index. So you'll be able to go in there and just ask it directly, hey, I'm looking for some good ideas about how to implement AI here or there, or here's a business problem we're facing right now, which applications can handle that, and can you sort them by the ones that have the best reputation and overall ratings and sentiment. So we want to do that over in this AI space, which is a version of what we envision building towards in the curriculum space as well, where all the curriculum is eventually sorted very effectively and matchmaked very effectively to learners. And then we can also see what's the overall sentiment around this curriculum from teachers and families and students. And then, of course, the holy grail over time, can we actually tie various curriculums with any degree of accuracy to like student outcomes and thriving and engagement and test scores and whatever else are important metrics to tie that back down to. So I think that's a pretty good overall picture summary of this topic here today. Let's use our last 10 minutes to just brainstorm around anything else that you want or need or would be useful on this topic or other topics to get into going forward. So we can go around the horn one more time here. So Dennis.
Well, Jacob, something I saw today that you had the MagicSchool AI.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the process of creating a personal finance course,
Cool.
and we're building projects into the course. But having help with rubrics will be really great for students, like because they can see exactly. And so it's great. I was playing with the site while you were talking. I was like, oh, this is perfect. So
yeah, that one
cool.
has gotten massive adoption. I consistently hear that one coming up from schools, and then
right.
Whenever I go to conferences, I'm basically looking for all of the presentations that have AI on the topic, and then go there.
Right. Yeah, it's good. And Liz, I love NotebookLM. Love it. We take our presentations we do at conventions, and then we put them into we have it do that AI podcast.
The podcast mode, yeah.
It was really, really,
So
really
fun.
cool. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we've been playing with that. It's really, and it's so well done. So it's fun. We got to figure out what we want to do with it, but right now we just play with it, right?
It's
Have you
amazing
all ever
how
read,
sorry.
say it, Lourdes?
I was just saying, just as amazing how when the people are interacting, there's pause. It feels so real, like there's literally two people going back and forth. It's just amazing. I love it.
I like that as well. I've been using it to create occasionally some really interesting discussion areas. Kind of like, any of you ever read Hermann Hesse's Magister Ludi glass bead game?
Mm-mm.
He won, I guess, the Nobel for it. I think so many of his books are excellent, but that one really got beneath the surface for me. It's like a educational cloister monk experience where these people had all studied so many subjects so deeply, and they don't ever describe exactly what the glass bead game is. But it's this idea that if you understand beneath the surface of multiple things, you can now draw correlations and insights between them in new and unique ways. And that's one of my favorite sort of nerdy, strange ways that my brain works, is I like to combine seemingly disparate topics into really interesting explorations. So I might take something from like Ayurveda, or discussion of big cycles of time, and then apply that to like the current American political landscape and look at it through 5 element theory and like that. But then having it as a podcast and a back and forth makes it that much more interesting.
This is what we
yeah,
call
Dan.
gifted. This is what we call a gifted student, when they can take things and integrate them at high levels like that.
That's
You
right.
call yourself a nerd, I say you're gifted.
Yeah, giving them these doorways in, they're like magic little doors to Narnia, where a whole other worlds can open up. Dan, any closing thoughts for you, or anything else you want to see us bring to this?
Yeah, I guess closing thoughts. I just know that we're all I feel like we're all on the cutting edge of it, and we don't know what we don't know still. And Magic School is something that I have heard of. I've had one teacher, but I'm just so small that when I think of systems, it's like, for me, it's people,
Yeah.
and their skill set and their capacity. And I mean, I still have some teachers using hand grade books, so we've got different levels of lifts in terms of savviness. So, but there's interest around it. So we just did a big deep dive with our staff. And we just said, AI, are you a fan of it, or do you want to ban it? Right? Like, just like starting there,
Yeah.
because some people are really repulsed and some are embracing, and everything in between. So we're just like literally starting there, and just hearing some of these things that you all are embracers, right? And I'm trying to, but I don't even know what I'm holding on to yet. So,
Well,
like, for me, it's like juggling spaghetti. So
I
appreciate
one thing I was thinking I'll make myself available for is any schools that are wanting to sort of build a little AI culture in, and have whatever it is, a monthly or a quarterly even sort of deep dive around the AI topic. I think it's best if it's something that's internally that's happening. It's not just a one-off, but it's like a recurring thing with some intention and some homework and some things that people are going to bring to the next one will help that culture develop. But I'm raising my hand to plug into any schools that are doing anything like that, and just want to have me in as a rogue element to help move that stuff along.
Maybe I need you, because we did do a shared document with a response to the prompts of, are you a fan, or do you want to ban it? And I gave them some prompts, and they all responded. So I was hoping to like AI their responses.
Yeah.
Right. And use it to give it back.
We could bucket them out and see the main things, as well as respond to each one individually.
Right.
But yeah, like use it or ban it is such a like kind of end of the line choice. We want to understand, if somebody's on the ban it side, what are they most scared of, or feeling the most friction around, or what is it? The people that are using it, what are they most excited about? But it's an interesting first place, and that, I kind of clickbaited one of our titles like that as well, with the AI instruction. Is this going to enhance or replace teachers, and so on?
Yeah.
Philomena.
Yeah, I think my school will be open to that, but we need you to maybe have kind of a PD with the whole faculty and administrators and teachers, so that they can actually be able to understand the benefits, so that those who are like reluctant about this, because I know a few people might say, oh no, with all the negative stuff that we are hearing about AI and so on. So I think we are going to reach out to you to come and do a whole PD with us. So,
I think it's a great point. It's like as quickly as possible, you want to find like what's that easy win where they get immediate benefit from it with very
yeah.
little like
Mhm.
new learning or some things that they had to wrestle with. The faster somebody can have like a positive experience, then the more it can shift that quickly. That's great.
Yeah, yeah, we need it. We need it. I know we're exploring with the Chat GPT, but we are not, we want at least many people on board to implement
Yeah,
it really good. So I think my
exactly.
superintendent would like you to come and share more light on it so that we can really embrace it, because that's the way of the future.
Yeah, that's the way I see it as well. So now I'm happy to have that conversation. Perfect. Lourdes.
Well, I'm very excited about all the other AI options that I haven't had time to explore. And the reality for me is learning how to really, like I did the other day, I was like, okay, what questions can I ask? How can I get, thinking about it, like even like Liz was saying, you know, I didn't even ever think about it for using to plan my vacation. I'm excited about that, girl.
Yeah.
So just thinking outside the box with it and trying out even more versions, because I am pretty limited as far as what what options are out there. So what you shared today is going to be really helpful. And also thinking about the ABCD, you know, you know, that's very important to me. Like I really want people to operate in our business in the best way that they're, that they feel like they're working in their areas of interest and not doing those repetitive things over and over again. So finding ways to do that in our business would be nice too.
Yeah, and like AI is like one super potent tool, and then more broadly, we can call them workflow automations are also very helpful to build around. All right, and last but not least, Liz.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I agree. I love your that framework that shows the different levels of tasks. And I think I like that you have the AI tools. I'm thinking I would want to ask my staff what tasks fit into this for you,
Exactly.
and I can tell you, because we're a non-classroom based independent study school, all that attendance paperwork is well, paperwork, it's all electronic now, but it's very, very time consuming, right? So what are the tools that we could use to maybe make that process easier, and how can we leverage that? I think it would be really powerful. I have a lot of people that are doing a lot of things all around, so I would love to hear from my staff too on, what are the tasks that you feel fit into these categories, and what are you currently exploring? Because I know everybody's kind of going all over the place right now. And so getting that information and having staff even share with each other, I think would be really powerful.
That's great. Yeah, I think that was what I was starting to do with it next is like, okay, now let's figure out what are those categories of activities that might even be a draft. And then you're asking people not to, they could add any that they don't see listed there, but otherwise they're all raising their hands for the ones that are the biggest, and you can figure out what those big dominoes are that like, all right, cool. These are all great ideas, but that's the one we're going after this month. We're getting that one done. Sweet. All right, gang. Well, thank you so much for making it again this month. We'll do it again in July. And what I typically do is like, again, I'll take the transcription and I'll get some ideas for a topic of focus for next month. But hopefully it's around, we'll have a little, some window here in June. And I've got Ethan on here too, who builds a lot of our chat bots. So we'll be able to actually have something to demo and play around with as we get closer to that. But for now, see y'all soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you.